Pete's head got cut off. It happens. A lot of sun out there today. It's hot. It's very hot. It's getting like summer hot in my area. Are you guys hot? Of course you're hot. Let's do it like that. Shave off a little more. All right. Yeah, that's nice. What's going on, everybody? And you can see my head, sort of. Let's do a little more on that. If I don't tutorial, she'll get really upset. Yep. She's probably already upset. So we're gonna give you guys a little bit of time to get on here and get settled. We have a smart person coming on today. Everybody just act normal. It's going to be fine. She's going to make us all smarter, for sure, for sure. Her name is Cherie Hu. Yuma! Wow. Germany is in the house. What's going on, man? I'm saying, man, I actually don't remember off the top of my head if you're a guy or a girl. I don't mean it like that. I'm sure it's super obvious if we're sitting face to face. I just don't know from emails. Thank you for joining us from Germany. Post what your studio is and what you guys are up to. How are things going with the remote sessions at your recording studio? We might actually have someone else coming in that's doing a little bit of the same kind of experimentation. We'll see if he shows up, and then I'll introduce you guys. He's based in Atlanta, and I don't want to give you too many hints, but I know you guys are all trying to kind of figure out what's going on as far as what people need. Yuma, are you guys tell me what you're offering right now. Is there anything that you guys can do? Yeah, I get it. It's funny that you say it in those words too, because I kind of hear it from the same, I hear that from the same people. And I think even the people that are doing good things and making motions, it's still like, you feel like, what is going on with my phone, man? It says, oh, I know what I need to do. Silence. So much powers. No, I get it. Are you familiar with a beer called Bitten something? I had it last night. It's pretty good. It's probably like, to you guys, if you're German, Bauer Studios. Analog. For sure. Yeah, that's it. For you, it's probably like, yeah, like I had this really great American beer called like Bud Light. It was amazing. I liked it, and I'm not even really a beer person. I did make sure that I drank it warm, because I guess you're supposed to do it like that. But it was good. It was good. It comes in the States anyway, and I got it at Trader Joe's, which probably means zero to you. But it comes in like a bigger than normal bottle can. And it's got a nice hoppy, it's a Pilsner. For those of you that now think that I drink beer like once every 4 years. But I had some last night, honestly, because I needed to have options. Raise your hand if you're getting like requests for like sitting down and drinking with people on, like a happy hour thing. And I just feel like, okay, at like 2:00 in the afternoon, I'm not going to have like a scotch. This isn't Mad Men yet. So, I'll have a beer. So I got a bunch of like beers that I've never tried from Trader Joe's. That's my backstory. Rizzieri, good to see you, my bro. I know you wanted to come on last time. The only American beer I liked was Sierra Nevada. Sierra Nevada. You know what you should try, and it's probably impossible to get this beer. So I'm Italian on my dad's side. My grandmother came over from Italy, and she landed in Pittsburgh. You know, I mean, you got to land somewhere. Well, she probably literally landed in New York, but she ended up in kind of like the projects in Pittsburgh, which is where, you know, Italians made it to at that time in history a lot of the time. And so inside of Pittsburgh, if you're from the Burgh, your favorite beer is, anybody know? Iron City beer. Iron City beer is a really, really good beer. And actually, that was the first impression I had when I was drinking, what is it, Bitburger? Yeah. It's sort of a smoother, hoppier Iron City. So if you ever get a chance to grab some Iron City beer, you'll know what it's like to live in Pittsburgh like that. So, yeah, man. Of course, I knew that, dude. So Rizzieri lives in Santiago, Chile. I lived there for a year. And I want to say that it's sort of like a similar situation. I think two generations back, you guys are like 100% Italian, right, Riz? Yeah, you got to grab some. And it's light. It's like, you know, it's not going to get you like knocked over. It's good light beer, lightish. Man, you got a complicated name. It's something like Yaokbub, but I don't know anything about the geopolitical situation in Yemen. Probably going to be a little off topic for this particular crowd, but appreciate the question. What's up, Joey? Corona? I mean, so I don't know if this is like super obvious for someone from Germany, but Corona kind of comes with like its own backstory. Like a Corona, usually you're supposed to put like a lime in the Corona, and you're supposed to be on the beach, and you know you're probably supposed to be wearing flip flops, and that's probably just their marketing just running through my head, right? So it's a good beer. It's really light. It's really like you're at, you know, like that's the beer. Like if you're out with work friends at a bar, hey, you guys want to get a drink? I'll take a Corona. Corona sounds good. It's like a very like safe beer. If that makes sense. How are we talking about beer? Because I mean, there's probably no subject I know less than beer. So Riz, you're I know last time you were here. Just want to see who's here. You wanted to hop on for a second because you're a ham like me. So do you want to hop on for a second and just like say hi to everybody? You're kind of a shy dude, as I remember, though. You don't like being in front of people. So, you know, maybe you're, I don't know, feel like it's a bad hair day. But no, I can't do it. All right. Maybe next time. So Tori's here. Tori, tell us about yourself. And how did you get all those crowns? Is that a Game of Thrones thing? What's up, Tori? Tell us about yourself. Oh, you're a fan. I appreciate that. Big fan, little fan, like the kind that you have like on your desk or the kind that you have in your window. 1, 2. What? I didn't even get a number for that. 1. Thank you. That was a dad joke, if you guys didn't know. Originally, that was in the bio to warn people, not to draw them, but to warn them. And now we pulled it because we figured if you can't handle dad jokes, you'll figure it out. Speaking of bio, I have a question, mildly inappropriate question. Is it possible to have feelings for a link like a link, like a URL. I feel like we're at a moment in time where, love you, Riz. You should hang out. You should come back in 20 minutes, man, because Cherie's going to be here and you're going to learn a lot. But if not, love you anyway. Let's do it. See you, Riz. Rizzieri is a former student of Create Music Academy, where I was admissions director, and a great guy, talented, has done a lot of excellent things. That's right. He was on one of our earlier pilot episodes. Tori, I got an email from you right before this started. That really got me excited because it's a our current bio has a link to our YouTube page, which is like 12 hours old, and it's got past not episodes, I guess, streams or casts. I don't feel like I'm comfortable enough saying casts. Maybe in a couple of weeks I'll be like, yeah, cast. People will be like, wow, the guy knows what he's talking about. I don't know what I'm talking about. The URL on our bio now is amazing. It was like, please visit us at youtube.com/ and you can't, on mobile, you can't copy and you can't like link, you can't click it. So it was just, it's like, no one's going to type that. And Tori sent me an email this morning and it's like, tiny URL / live on live. I'm like, what? Can you post that? Like, it's the little things when you don't have a whole lot built yet, right? Yuma? Thank you. So thank you, Tori. By the way, Tori is our truly fearless coordinator. Fearless just because she's jumped into this. And every day we learn about 1,000 things, right, Tori? And so, anyway, it's been an adventure. Yuma, I want to introduce you to a guy named Billy Johnson. Hopefully, he's going to be popping in today. Billy has a studio in Atlanta called Crossover. It's sort of a studio / rehearsal space. It's got a lot of different things that it's known for, and he's right in the middle of kind of repurposing a lot of things for live streaming. And I think you guys could, share some notes. I'm trying to help out as much as I can, really just by rambling. Yeah, no, I'll get it to you, man. I got you. But I mean, I'm sure Billy will appreciate it. Tori, can you type, because I'm being very high maintenance today. I'm sure I could type, but can you type Crossover Studios in Atlanta just so people can check it out? You can find it online and Google it, but I'll introduce you. I'll check in with Billy and see, about introducing you guys. People at the studio have been brainstorming new ideas for sure. So what are we talking about? Everyone that's coming on and going like, okay, what is this? And that's going to happen throughout. Live on Live is a stream about live streaming for artists, for musicians, and for the people that help and care for them. So studios, it could be things, it could be management, it could be artists themselves. It could be people who want to just understand what's going on in the space and are curious. I write for 3 music industry publications. Yuma has an excellent question, and Tori's like, ask a question and answer it, Peter. That's what happens. Live stream is a big thing. We think, but how can you monetize it? Whoa. Well, I'm glad you're here today. What's up, Annie? Annie was giving us a lot of love on the last stream with Matt Walden. She was really, really sweet for us. So Matt Walden is an amazing live stream artist that you guys need to check out. He's a master of the loop pedal. Yuma, do you have any loop pedals? Do studios have loop pedals? For writers, maybe? People want to come in and kind of write. They probably bring in their whole band. But anyway, Annie is a fan of Matt Walden and then kind of came over to our world on Wednesday, and she's very kindly come back to join us. This is going to be, if you thought I told you, I warned you ahead of time. Thank you, Tori. Matt Walden's music is unbelievable. I used the word meditative with him on Wednesday, and I don't think he liked that word. But to me, it's like there's something very pure and beautiful and meditative about how Matt does his music. And he's super talented. It's just, go to his website or go to one of his live streams and just watch it. And I don't have to explain much. But he does everything himself, literally. All the percussion, all the rhythm tracks, all the solo tracks, all the vocal melodies, all the harmonies, everything real time. And frankly, I feel like that's more entertaining than watching people just like produce their. I see a lot of that on Twitch right now. Like, oh, here's how I'm producing. I don't know, Yuma, would you watch that? So to sort of allude to your question a little bit. So Cherie is, I've referred to her a couple times the last few weeks as the Einstein of live streaming. And I say that because she's probably the one single person that understands kind of like not just what live streaming is doing, but where it's moving and kind of how the different pieces fit together. And she's one of those people that can be very granular and very 30,000 feet up at the same time. So I don't think, I've created, Tori, if you can post that link for the music registry resource guide. That resource guide, which I've been working on the last 6 weeks, is kind of what has led us to doing this. And it's what led me to speak to Cherie. And at this time, I've spoken to a lot of people about monetization, about models, about what's going on. And Cherie, I think, is the best person. So it's a great question, and it's a moving target. So even right now, like literally, one of the questions I want to ask Cherie is like, what categories of models are there? Because in my mind, I think in broad strokes, you've got free models like, let's say, Instagram and Facebook Live. However, Facebook is going to be coming out with a paid version in a few weeks, supposedly. It's sort of like announced, but it's not really official yet. So once that happens, to me, that's a totally different model than even what's been out so far, because it's sort of like this broad reach, massive eyeballs mixed with, some sort of relatively small, I wouldn't call that a micro payment. I think it's going to be like $5, but I'm not sure. So there's that model. There's a StageIt model, StageIt.com. Evan Lowenstein has been doing this for 10 years. He was kind of the lion of the whole space. And that's a ticket model. You pay a ticket, you get in. Now, the ticket can be really cheap. It can be 10 cents. It can be $100. And he's had both extremes. Yes, the A&R registry. Yeah. I imagine Facebook won't pay that well, and they will want their margin, most definitely. But think about it this way. Let's say it's $5. And let's say, think about the scale, like Fortnite. Travis Scott just had like 12 million people hop on Fortnite and watch him perform. 12 million people. And Marshmello was like 10 or 11 million. Like, that's the numbers of people for the right kind of artists in the right kind of environment. I'm not saying it'll necessarily work that way on Facebook. But even if it's 500,000 people at $5, and even if Facebook takes half of that, that's worth thinking about. So anyway, there's the StageIt model. There's a ticketing model. StageIt's sort of the most well-defined in that space. You've got other companies like Key is doing that. All of this is in the registry, by the way. So Tori, if you if you can put the music registry /featured link, that link, which is going to be updated every month. It's about to be updated with a lot of really great, juicy quotes from every single head executive at the top 10 live streaming platforms, I'd say. I don't have Twitch on there yet. I'm working on it. Tori, that's you dropping the ball. Just want to let everybody know. Now, I'm working on Twitch. There's a couple other people that I really want to bring on, but there's a lot of people there that are in that space. And I think reading that and reading their quotes, they're sort of longish. So it'll take maybe half an hour to read everybody's quote. But those people, what's cool about that, and I didn't realize this until I just submitted it Wednesday. It's like everybody has a different vantage point on what's driving the audience and the money. And of course, they have a bit of an agenda. Every company has positioned themselves a little differently. But if you read all of them, you'll see 10 different ways of looking at where the money is and how it works and what people really value and why they're watching these things and whether you should be trying to charge or just promote and market yourself, or whether you should be, trying to create something premium, whether you should be trying to create something micropayment. The other thing I'll mention before Cherie gets on is the micropayment model, which is really funky to me. It's still fascinating that, you'll have, and this is YouNow. So YouNow and Twitch are basically micropayment models where you do something interesting, not like this, interesting. And then, people will pay you in virtual currency in various ways for subscriptions, for, right, Annie? What are some things that Matt Walden does? He has a subscription. He's got, let's see if Cherie is here. Okay. So everybody be cool. Be cool. Cherie Hu's about to come on. Hopefully the Wi-Fi gods are kind to us today. What's up, Cherie?
Hello. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. I'm glad that it's Friday. How are you doing?
I'm really good, and I'm glad that it's Friday. I didn't realize that I was, I'm going to just put my headset on so that, are you in, you're in Brooklyn, I want to say?
Mm-hmm. In Brooklyn, yeah.
So what is it like right now in Brooklyn?
What is it like? It's definitely quieter. Although, so last weekend was kind of frightening just for me to see because it was almost 80 degrees, and there's so many people outside. Like everyone went on their porch. Lots of people were like walking around.
But
it's
then
weird, right? It's really weird.
Like, who are all these people?
Yeah, and I so I've only been going. Maybe I'm like a little too paranoid, but I've been only going out like once a week just to get groceries, and like the whole rest of the time I've just been staying inside because just given what the situation is like in New York in terms of number of cases. But like that, sorry, that weekend, I was like, oh, like that's what it feels like to like actually be outside. And I just like remembered like, wow, this was normal before. It was a very strange moment, but I mean, thankfully, I'm still okay health wise.
Is your family
just monitoring the situation
in the area in New York? Everybody good? Everybody doing well?
I'm actually the only sorry.
It's okay.
I'm the only person in New York. My parents and my siblings are actually in Maryland. So my parents were in Westchester, New York, where I grew up, and that's been one of the like main epicenters of cases in New York. And so they moved out quite early, like in early March, to my aunt's place in Maryland. Yeah.
Oh, what part of Maryland?
Ocean City. So it's by the coast, which is they've been enjoying that a lot. Which is good.
I grew up in Northern Virginia.
Okay.
Which doesn't mean anything, but like it's right outside DC. Mm-hmm. So like, when you say tri-state Maryland, all that area, like I know that area pretty well. But yeah, it's been a weird time, right? It's been a really weird time.
Yeah.
So so let me sort of reintroduce, this live stream. One of the reasons why there's like about 1,000 reasons why I'm excited to have you on today. And one of them is that the idea for this literally came up during our conversation. Do you remember that?
Yes. Yep.
So backstory, I'll tell everybody sort of what this is, and then I'll introduce you. Does that sound okay? So what is this? This is Live on Live. We are a stream about live streaming for artists, and this came about because about 6 or 7 weeks ago, Cherie, Rich Ezra, who runs the publications that I write for, and we had a conversation. It was probably a week into all of this, and I said, okay, we have this whole thing on Atlanta that we're about to roll out with all the special issue on Atlanta, and we can't do that. No one wants to hear about, how cool it would be to work in Atlanta right now. We need to do something. And I was like, I don't know what it is. Let me spend about a day or two online finding out what everybody else is doing, so we don't just do something else that's the same thing, And I was like, okay, we don't need to do like a list of all the different shows that are happening. And by the way, you have a great sort of short list in your most recent email that I want to put up here. Like, here are the lists of lists. Here's a list of lists.
Oh my gosh, there's so many.
There's so many.
That was definitely not exhaustive, and already they're like,
So like, I'm sitting there and I'm going, we need to do something. And after a day or two, I said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to create sort of a resource book. And then I realized, well, Cherie's kind of already done that also. But what we're trying to do, I think, is take it and expand it into not just sort of the live streaming concept, but like a little more broad. But really, like, a lot of what you were doing and where you were coming from, I think, was what helped guide our concept. And then fortunately, I was able to interview you and have you be a part of that first issue that we sort of were starting to cover this. So every month that issue is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And we're looking forward to doing more stuff with it. So we were, talking for that interview. This was like 5 weeks ago or something. And I said, after I spoke to Emma and I spoke to you, and I was like, this is good. Like, this back and forth is really good. And we should capture this. We should have something. We should do like a live stream on live streaming. And you were like, yeah, let's do it. So Cherie, I'll give you a little bit of an intro, and then you can add some stuff to it, because I feel like every day you're probably doing more things, and I envision you as like the Situation Room right now. Like, people call you and they're like, Cherie, what do we do? And you're like, it's gonna be okay. So Cherie, you have a background as a journalist. You write for Billboard. You write for Music Business Worldwide. You write for Rolling Stone, right? You do some things for NPR, and you basically live in the live streaming, but also kind of the tech and music space. What's going on? Where are things going? How do we sort of understand this? And it seems to be moving faster and faster. So people that can actually keep up with it and make sense of it are few and far between. And I feel like you are the top of the list. So that's another reason I'm really excited to have you on, because you can go very deep on a subject. You can see it from 30,000 feet up, right? So you have Water and Music, which is your own property that publishes. You have a Patreon page that you guys should be considering supporting and subscribing to. You've had some really great growth and success with that quite recently, even just in the last couple of weeks, right?
Yeah.
So, is that pretty much it? Is there anything else you've added to that in the last 48 hours that I missed?
No, that's definitely it. And I would say, like the last year, especially, I've been focusing a lot more on the Water Music side. So growing on my own newsletter and Patreon page. And I do still freelance, and that, I was exclusively freelancing for other publications for like 3 to 4 years. And then now I've kind of shifted towards building out my own place. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I think there's some parallels between that sort of Patreon thing that you're building and the live streaming world. And if you'd like, we can sort of, especially since you also have a book coming out in about a year that sort of parallels the tech space and the music space, and what's it like to be an independent artist versus being a startup essentially, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that comes out a year-ish?
If all goes well, yeah. So
Yeah.
the
Never
manuscript
know.
deadline is December, mid-December,
Cool.
and then yeah, given like how the publishing cycle works, it might be like around 6 months, 7 months. So yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Also, you have done, I alluded to a Google document. Is it okay if we post the link for that doc here?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. So
Meant to
Tori,
be shared. Yeah.
great. So Tori, if you could put the Google Doc link, if you don't know where it is, I can hunt around for it for you while we're on this. But that link, that doc is amazing. It's crazy.
Thank you.
A lot of things you've done recently are amazing, but that doc is a really good place to start if you're just trying to get kind of your head around the live space.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's most of what you're doing. You're also, by the way, doing consulting. So for anyone that's like, I mean, I'd really like to just, have a conversation for an hour or two with her. Are you available for that? Is that something people do through the Patreon thing?
Yeah, definitely. So I launched a consulting tier a couple months ago on my Patreon page. I only had 15 slots open, and they actually recently filled up, but I'm thinking of opening it up a little bit more, just because other people have been asking for that. So yeah, definitely open to that. Yeah.
So, we had a question earlier, which is kind of I think the heart of what a lot of people are talking about. Yuma, who happens to have a studio in Germany, that reached out to the registry, the A&R registry, a couple of weeks ago and said, yeah, we're doing some remote stuff. We're trying to figure it out. And of course, everybody has to follow the regulations. But, he's basically asking, like, how are people making money off live streaming?
Mm-hmm.
So I know that's kind of like a sort of an introductory question, but even given that like Facebook is just about to roll out with their sort of new thing, like I feel like it's still this moving target. So how would you categorize these? Like there's a lot of different things happening. Some people are pivoting, but like for someone that's trying to sort of understand this succinctly, what are the core categories for someone to kind of understand like what's basically going on?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think part of the answer lies in what was already happening around live streaming prior to the pandemic. So obviously there's like so much more activity around live streaming than there was before, but you did have like festivals like Coachella live streaming already for a couple of years. You did have artists already using IG Live pretty often, but usually in a much more informal way, just to like, answer questions from fans pretty spontaneously, or if they just released an album, they would, go live and answer questions about it. So that behavior was already there, but so I would put that into like one of now many categories. So for like a festival like Coachella, who wants to live stream, or there are a lot of other like EDM festivals that have some live streaming component to them, that usually is available for free. Like people are not really going to pay for a Coachella live stream necessarily, and the purpose of that is to just increase exposure, just to increase the audience for a festival that otherwise is limited to a big, but nonetheless, relatively small in-person audience.
Would you compare it to radio play in a way?
A Coachella live stream?
From the standpoint that it's designed to be free, right? And it's there to drive interest and attract people to go, oh, I like that band. And then they might spend money. But of course, the difference is that you're getting royalties, you're getting performance royalties from radio play. I mean, you are technically supposed to get performance royalties for, and that's a whole other debate, but
right.
But it's kind of meant to be something that you get people to know more about you and like you, and then invest more.
Or this, so it's kind of the same, but it's like if like a sports game is like broadcast live on the radio, and you have like people commenting on it, right? Like that is available for free. Anyone can listen to that if they're not there in person. Yeah, so it serves a similar function to that. And then pre-pandemic, there are very few artists live streaming their concerts, but they will go live in like a more informal social manner. So I would say like that's another category where you're not live streaming like a concert, you're just going live to engage with fans. Usually it was seen as like a if the artist had time for this, then like they'll go live. It wasn't really seen as like a necessary part of, say, like the marketing like experience around an album or something like that. So
Yep.
So yeah, that's another category. And then now you're saying, go ahead.
And I just wanted to mention Yuma.
Mm-hmm.
I can't tell if you said that before or after what Cherie just said, but I think that speaks to your question. Like, there's social live and there's music live.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely. Yep. Yeah. And so now, in this moment, there's so much more activity around live streaming because I think people are using it to fill a void that used to be filled by touring. So we can go into like how the sentiment around that is changing, but I think around like early to mid-March, when like all the major festivals and tours like South by Southwest and like all of Live Nation's tours got canceled, so many people went to live streaming to try to, you know, still like give concerts and perform their songs or latest albums or whatever to fans around the world, which I think in general it's a great gesture, but there's a lot of like conversation around the extent to which that can happen for free forever. So it's like the vast majority of those live streams have also happened for free. Yes, there is an opportunity for fans to donate, especially if it's like a charitable stream, or in many cases, fans can also donate directly to the artists who are streaming if they make that information available. But that really is like an online busking model is how I think about it. So basically like artists are going live on like the digital street corner and hoping that whoever passes by will like stay for a couple minutes and watch them and then like give some money to them.
Right. And the question, so the busking model, would you put busking as a platform where people give $1 or $2 in real life, or something like a YouNow or a Twitch where they're giving virtual currency? Or would you consider both of those types of tipping the busking model?
So yes, there are some key differences though. So I guess when you're busking in person, the vast you might post about it on social media, but usually you're just going out on the street and like performing and, you know, for whoever passes by. So probably like 95% of your audience, if not all of your audience, are like strangers.
They're just walk-bys.
They're just walk-bys. Whereas with live streaming, I think, especially if you build up an audience like someone like Emma has, you know, there will be a lot of existing fans and much more loyal fans, maybe fans who've followed you for a long time tuning in.
Cherie is referring to Emma McGann.
Yes.
For those of you that haven't been on the last few weeks, we had her on a number of times. You can see all that on YouNow. But yes, Emma McGann is a great example of a lot of what you're talking about.
So yeah, that's the main difference. But the model of playing for free and relying on tips is the same. And I think for that reason, it can work for some artists for sure, but I think should not be the default, or there should definitely be more diversity, because then otherwise a lot of artists, I just think, well, this is like a whole other question of like what artists are fit for like a very consistent live streaming model versus not. And I think, so it's not like a one size fits all landscape.
Right. That's a really good point. So I think there's certain kinds of there's certain kinds of artists that are not only probably more naturally inclined to do live streams well, but also to keep that regularity, whether it's once a day, once a week, twice a week, whatever. It's a different kind of gig, right? It's a different kind of value proposition.
Yes.
And there's probably people that are spectacular at live streams that the live show may or may not be something that stands up, and more importantly, probably vice versa. There's probably a lot of fantastic, do you agree? There's a lot of fantastically talented live artists that are going to either have to learn a new skill set, or they're going to have to realize like, this is not something you can just walk into and be a celebrity and just intrinsically make it work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we may have talked about this last time for the last piece, but the thing about touring that I personally didn't realize until this pandemic hit is that the act of touring is so repetitive fundamentally for the artist. And like, I mean, that's a huge reason why artists can get burned out and tired. It's a whole it's a separate issue, but the content of touring is very repetitive. Artists are playing the same set across multiple cities. They might make some switches, like, you know, for local audiences, but for the most part, it's the same. Whereas unless you like, I guess, charge for live streams or maybe like geofence them somehow.
Geofence meaning that, let's say you do a show in LA or you do a show for LA and you say you have to be in this region in order to access it. That's something that people are doing a little more aggressively right now. Sorry, go ahead.
No worries. Yeah. That's so it's definitely an emerging model, but not mainstream model at all. So unless you're doing one of those things, playing the same show live over and over again is probably not going to be that appealing to people. Or even if you're not playing the same set, just like playing concerts week after week, I'm not sure if that's even like the most interesting to people in and of itself. Like if you're just playing through a set of songs in a static manner without some kind of added value or added experience that happens.
No one wants to see the same show over and over and over. For example, if you go to Emma's virtual tour, which I highly recommend you guys all check out, the way she structured that as kind of an example that you guys could see. She has a virtual tour. You can get one pass. I think it's like 20 pounds, whatever that is in dollars. And, it goes every week for like maybe like 12 weeks, 10 weeks, something like that. And I've noticed that every week we've attended, Tori and I have attended a couple of them. And then I think there was one we missed because I was on deadline. It's something different. It's okay. This week it's going to be pure pop. And then the next week it's going to be kind of cafe acoustic. And the next week we're going to completely retool the whole stage.
Yes, I saw her. Yep.
Right?
Carrying on the stage. Yep.
So, that's an example. Like, what do you mean do something different every week? Like, do something different every week so your diehard fans, right, are interested. The other thing you mentioned as kind of a key difference between how you think about and approach a live show and a live stream show is the ratio of, let's call it banter to musical performance. It's kind of flipped. Right. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, so in like an in-person show, you're mostly there for the show, like the performance of the music that the artist put out into the world, and to create some kind of like community or camaraderie that artists might like to talk for a minute or like a couple of minutes in between. Yeah, I would say it's like roughly like 80-20 split of music to banter, like at most. That's the most an artist would be talking, unless they're like also a comedian or something. But yeah, for the most part, that's the ratio. In contrast, I like some of the most interesting streams, some of the most interesting live stream shows go much closer to 50-50 or even to majority interactive conversation versus
that's huge.
Performance.
That's really huge. I think for anyone in this space, whether you're an artist, studio, whatever, if you are setting things up to capture this, your instincts that have served you the last 50 years, last 10 years, 20, however long you've been doing this, are going to misguide you, because you're going to think it's the content is king, and you're thinking it's going to be the song, it's going to be the way they perform that song, and the stuff in between is just to make sure it feels personable.
Yeah,
it's flipped, right? Which is really sort of that's a key difference. Right. I want to play off something that Yuma said, because I think it's an interesting point, and I think it's I'd like to hear your take on it. So Yuma says, I think a big advantage that streaming has is that you're able to find audiences from all over the world at the same time. Now, in my take of that, I feel like, again, and speaking to you and Emma specifically, I feel like the biggest differentiator is the form of interaction. So you might only have 20 people on that stream, but you guys are like friends, right? And so to me, I almost feel like Yuma's got a great point, but my mind tends to gravitate towards actually it's less is more, but a more deeply sort of cultivated relationship. What is the most valuable value proposition of streaming right now? Is it I can reach 1 million people or 12 million people if I'm Travis Scott inside of Fortnite? Or is it that I can get a really tight connection with 25 or 50 or 100 people that not only monetizes well in the short and long term, but is a real community? What do you think of those two is the most valuable part of live streaming?
Of live streaming specifically? Yeah. So I guess first off, I totally agree with what Yuma said for streaming in general. And you saw this on the audio side, like with, thanks to services like Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, artists are able to reach global audiences much more quickly than before, even if, or I guess especially if you're not signed to a major label, you know, in a specific country. With live streaming, I think that, that benefit is still there, but I agree that the metrics are different. So I think the most important metrics to think about are concurrent viewership, so like average concurrent viewership per stream versus total number of views. So it looks kind of similar. So some of the metrics that are important are similar to like YouTube. So like followers are definitely important, and the number of concurrent viewers. Whereas if you take like an audio streaming service like Spotify, yes, followers are still important, but because there is a direct line between consumption and payment in terms of royalties, I think at least at a certain level, artists, people care about maximizing exposure and like just maximizing number of plays as well, which is why like playlist culture is still like super important and carries a lot of influence and weight in certain areas of the music industry. Whereas with live streaming, I totally agree. Like number of concurrent viewers and like how long they stay on your stream as well. Because like if they stay on your stream for like 2 minutes out of an hour, that might not be like it's a view, but like was it a really meaningful view? Probably not. Whereas if you have like 20 viewers who are staying on for the entire hour, like that's already like really good progress. And so like a lot of like major artists will have maybe only like 1,000 or so concurrent viewers, or like a couple thousand concurrent viewers, and they'll be like, oh, it's so low. I have like 1 million Spotify followers, like monthly listeners. Like why can I get that much? But especially if they haven't toured that much before, that's like if you can get that viewership consistently week after week, that's like playing a venue of that size, the global audience, you know, week after week. And
I think you mentioned in our interview that the easiest, and this made a lot of sense to me, and it sort of like spread the clouds in my mind about it. It's like, think of concurrent, by the way, Yuma, concurrent views are how many people are there at the same time, which is obviously a moving thing. Like over the course of this, you know, stream, we might go from like 5 to 15 to 12 to whatever, depending on, you know, whatever people's schedules and whatever we're covering and stuff like that. So concurrent is just how much. But what you had mentioned was, look at it like it's a live show. In other words, if you have 50 or 100 people at a live show and you're doing that 3 times a week, that's a decent, it's not a huge tour, but as an independent artist, it's playing to 50 people here, 50 people there. You can eat, you'll do okay like that. And I think that number, is that fair? Am I sort of rewording what you said?
No, I think that's totally fair. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also wanted to, you know, it's really, Annie, it's super cool to have you on because so do you know Matt Walden? Are you hip to Matt Walden?
Me? I don't think so.
Yeah. I'll send you some information. So he's he's mostly on Twitch. He was on You Now he's on Twitch. I think he just hit 400 subscribers.
Okay.
And a lot of that grew over the last couple of weeks from people that were like rating his stream, right? And so meaning that people were ending their stream and they were like, hey, let's everybody go over and check out Matt Walden. And then he's like, oh my God. And then like, you know, you get like 100 new fans. This is sort of rephrasing what he said. But what was cool is we were interviewing Matt on Wednesday and Annie comes on. And I felt like, you know, Matt, like Emma, is this sort of very interesting, I don't know, example of a lot of these things that seem a little sort of self-evident and sort of like semi-obvious, like, yeah, you need to engage, you need to, you know, you need to have banter. Okay, that makes sense in my head. But when you see certain people do it and do it well, and you feel it when they're engaging and sort of facilitating that community, it's hard to even put into words. I was sort of struggling with that. But Annie is someone that came from that crowd and from that space, right? So I'm super interested to read. So here's her comment. That's why I wanted to sort of tee it up. Annie says, I think building a community, even if it's small, is really helpful. Music streams start to feel like a living room concert that a friend is putting on. So when this is all over, I'm 110% more likely going to try to get to a live show because I want to support my friends and meet the community. One thing that Emma said to me when I was interviewing her, I was sort of repeating something she said, and I said, so your fans do this and that, and she goes, I don't really think of them as my fans. I think of them as my friends and supporters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right. So there's this. So like, Annie, thank you. I think you said it really nicely, and I think it's cool coming from someone that's following and there and doing it. And again, if you guys watch Matt's stream, you'll get it. It's easier to watch it for an hour or two and go, oh wow, this is this is sort of magical in a way that even a tour date isn't. So I wanted to ask you about Facebook, because it's super recent and it's kind of halfway announced. So from what I understand, Facebook's going to be rolling out a paid model. I don't even know if it's clear what it's going to cost, but is that a game changer? Because it sort of seems to me like it combines that sort of, like to Yuma's point, it's the hugeness and the viralness of being able to, like, get a bunch of people on at the same time, mixed with this sort of paywall model. What do you think of that? What is it going to look like? Do you think it'll completely sort of change the landscape?
It totally depends. I think, it's super interesting, because I think, my sense that the vast majority of people have never paid for a live stream, even though the ability to pay for one has been around for a while. Like, but usually in like very specific communities, like you have platforms like nugs.net, which is active in like the jam band and rock space, and they work with bands like Fish.
Tori, can you just type nugs.net so people know what she's talking about?
Yeah, nugs.net and nugs.tv is where you can go and directly buy concert archives or like access to live streams on a pay-per-view basis. So they've been around since like the mid to late 90s.
Yep.
So that's been around, but that's like a very specific like part of the music industry. Yep. And yeah, it's kind of like a chicken or egg issue. It's like, do more artists have to even like opt to charge for live streams in order to get more fans to start paying for them? That's like one hypothesis. But then there's also the question of like, what are people even willing to pay for? Like, I feel like if you want to pay for a live stream concert, it either has to give them like much more access than something like an Instagram live or like a free Twitch stream would give them. It's like more access, or like super interesting, super immersive visuals. It's kind of like it's like, what value, if people are going to pay, what value are they going to get in return?
And when you say access, does that also mean like not only engage? So let me phrase it another way. Is there a third category? So you have access to the artist, you have something that's visually immersive, but also what about access to the other fans and that ability to sort of, connect with them and interact with, oh, you love this, oh, I love that's my favorite. Like, that's a different value prop than, oh, I can get backstage with the artist kind of feel, or like, this is, it's like I'm at the virtual concert in the middle of Fortnite, and that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
There's a third element, which is like, yeah, but all 65 or 65,000 of us are like massively into this artist, and we're super enjoying each other's company. Is that worth paying for? Or do people already get that?
Yeah, I think there are some models that do lean on that. So one example is the producer Kenny Beats, who's one of probably the biggest and like fastest growing artist channel on Twitch right now. So he's like he's a hip hop producer.
Cool.
Yeah, he's been on Twitch for a while and was posting pretty regularly prior to the pandemic, but I mean he's definitely been seeing a lot more growth now. And so he goes live on Twitch only for paying subscribers. So you have to subscribe to his channel for $5 a month to get access to his streams. He goes live almost every weekday and just like spends 3 to 4 hours producing a new beat or just like working on some music, and then he'll usually bring in some of his friends or collaborators or even some like subscribers as well to come in and like talk about music. Can
you post his Twitch handle just so people can check it out, including me? Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Tori. What was I gonna say? Oh yes, and then subscribers also get access to a Discord server. And so I recently subscribed just because I like his music, but was also curious, and The server has over 1,200 people now in the chat, so it's quite big.
Can you translate what a Discord server is? I've known it for about 2 weeks, so I kind of know what you're talking about. But for people, translate what a Discord server is and why it might be a really critical component, especially for a Twitch artist live streamer.
Sure. Yeah. So I have a Discord server attached to my Patreon page as well. So I've been like definitely learning how the whole thing works. In my mind, it's similar to Slack, but it's much more informal. It's not meant to be. A lot of companies do use it, but a lot of like non-professional groups also use it. So it's just meant to. So it's meant to be like a more like more casual, more informal kind of chat system, and it works similar to Slack in that you can have a Slack channel is the equivalent of a Discord server. So you can be like a member of multiple different servers. The interface is kind of similar in that you can have multiple servers you access on the left side of the screen, and then each server could have different threads different I guess like hashtags or whatever you call them in Slack,
which are almost like rooms.
Rooms, yes, there we go. Yep.
Ish, yeah.
Yep. And so so like in Kenny Beats and in his Discord server for his Twitch fans Twitch subscribers, there's like a music production channel. There's like a food channel where people just post food, which I think is great. There's
how popular is music production as a sort of subcategory? Because this will be good for Yuma. It'll be good for anyone watching. If like it, I see a lot of artists kind of being like, okay, well, I'm going to cut a song today, or I'm going to tune my vocals. Like, where is that in the grand scheme of like, oh, people are really into that, or what do you think?
Yeah, a couple thoughts on this. So I think music producers, in a way, are actually in an easier position to adapt to live streaming than the traditional like public-facing performing artist. So if you take super like most extreme level, take like a major artist like Katy Perry or Rihanna.
Sure.
Rihanna's a great example. Okay, Rihanna's a perfect example because she has not released a new album in 4 years, like 3-4 years.
Sounds
she's like very intentionally focusing on. Yep. Anti was the last one. Mm-hmm. And she's like, been very intentionally focusing on her like other businesses and like fashion and beauty and etc. And so she's probably working. I think she is like releasing a new album in the near future, but it's not like she has it's not like she could easily just like record a new song and like live stream it and release it like week after week. Like that would kind of, in a weird way, that would like almost take away from the value around her like brand and her persona. Like she really wants to like drop a proper album and a proper yes, and that's a super traditional way of
more and more old school now that you've got this other thing. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's old school, and I totally understand the appeal of it. But if you then contrast that to someone like Kenny Beats or a lot of hip hop producers who are probably just by nature of their job, they're already like releasing beats and working on like a much higher volume of tracks than a standard, recording artist would. And so they're in a much better position to go live every day or every week because they can just make a beat on the spot and release it without that much consequence.
Question: is there an artist that would be in that category of just a great natural performer, writer, singer, etc., who is effectively, successfully capturing the kind of no big deal moments in the studio and making it into a live stream? Or does that not work? Have people not really done it effectively yet?
Let me think. I think it works for a certain kind of artist. Actually, okay, a good example pre-pandemic where actually this didn't work as well. So when the Chainsmokers were first coming up, they didn't release an album for a really long time, and they were only just dropping singles. Or they may have dropped like 2 singles at a time or something. Mm-hmm. But they had no album. They're just releasing singles, and it ended up being really effective for them in like growing their audience and like racking up streams. Like in at the outset, but then as they kept growing, it was so interesting. Like it got to a point where people were asking like, okay, like what's the point? Like what's next? Like what is actually like your your creative vision or like your goal as artists. Like that actually was not clear in just like this dropping the singles kind of like model. And so they ended up like now going more towards like albums and like releasing albums. But I think they were like aiming for much more like mainstream stardom at the level of like a Steve Aoki or a Rihanna or like people like that. So in contrast, there are a lot of, so in terms of like building a career and building a solid creative vision around releasing music regularly, there's so many artists that are native to YouTube that have done this really well. So like YouTube has like a ton of really big music channels that are like dedicated mostly to covers or to like reinventions of stylistic reinventions of already existing songs. So like one example is Postmodern Jukebox. They like it's like a band and they do very like old school
retro like 20s
style. Yes. Like covers of like pop songs and they have really solid like concept and vision. So good, and they drop videos super frequently. Scary Pockets is another one. They do like funk.
Scary Pockets, I don't know them.
Okay,
they do like a funk thing.
Yeah, actually, Jack Conte, CEO of Patreon, is a member of them. So that's like actually one of his first groups. Yep. So yeah, they do like really good funk covers of like pop songs as well. And so so that's interesting because it doesn't. That's an instance of definitely being creative and original, but not making original content per se, like not making an original song.
You had a couple of people, I think it was 3 different artists / producers, song producers, that you had listed on your original live stream document. One was JVNA, if I'm saying that right.
Yeah, I think it's pronounced Jana, but the Jana, V, the first A is a V. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There were like 3 people that you mentioned, and I went on to their Twitch for like 5 minutes each, and I immediately got like, oh, these people are clearly talented as artists. They can sing, or producers or whatever they do creatively, but also they have a following of people that just like to watch them work.
Yes.
And I think that's, I don't know if Billy, if you're on right now, but Yuma, like all you guys that have studios, I mean, I think this is valuable for you guys because it's like, okay, how can I capture some of the magic that's happening inside of my doors every day that's watchable, that's perhaps episodic, to use a word that you were kind of toying with, that's something that's not the same every day. It's not like, oh, this guy's producing vocals again. Like it's the same thing from last week. It's got to be different, but whether it's charisma or creativity or like you're actually hearing him come up with a hook, whatever it is, there's value in that that's just happening inside your doors every day, but no one's capturing it. No one's performing it, and then it just walks out the door, and all you get is your rate card.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are those 3 artists that you had? Do you remember who they were?
So Jana's one. JVNA is how you, I guess, write her name.
Okay. Jana.
Another one, interestingly, almost rhymes. It's called Hana.
Hana, that's it.
Yeah. Hana. She famously recorded she live streamed the entire recording process for her last album on Twitch, and she like, I think it was over the course of 3-4 weeks. Some of her streams ran like 8 to 10 hours. So like it's I think it feels especially exhausting in that
thank you, Tori.
That it was all and that it was all live stream, but I think it's something she would have done anyway. Just like given her like sorry, not the live streaming part, but like the recording part. It's like something she would have done anyway. And I do think, like speaking of intimacy, it definitely takes someone with a certain personality and like willingness to be open and bear everything to be able to live stream to that extreme. I think you're seeing like Kenny is not showing all aspects of him like recording an album or something, but he's doing that on a much smaller level. Just like,
well, it's funny. There's 2 things that come up. One is having, I consulted with Westlake Studios, and I've sort of been a part of the production world for a while, and like producers aren't famous for sharing their secrets. That's number one. They're not wanting you to know all their secrets, and yet the sort of value prop of this is like, oh, that's how she's doing that. That's number one. Number two, producers don't think of themselves as necessarily performing when they're producing records. I mean, they're engaging with the artist, and they're drawing out a great performance, and they're working with the vibe in the room for sure. But there's a certain kind of production artist that can like keep people watching. And again, I think it's this very special skill that some of them have that you're like, oh, and there's something about their personality and how much of themselves they reveal, right? And so I wanted to get from you some of those examples, because I think those are the doorways in for you guys to be able to see people that are doing it, whether it's Emma or it's Matt or it's some of these artists that Cherie's mentioning. It's like, go to the people that are saying something that people want to hear and just watch them. And start to say, wow, how could we do that here? And who could do that? What kinds of engineers or producers are not only good at what they do, but can like say that are just entertaining for whatever reason that they're entertaining. Right?
Yeah, I think there's, I'm kind of thinking out loud right now, but there's kind of like two sides of the same coin. So on one hand, if you take someone like Kenny Beats as an example, what he does on Twitch is certainly music centric, certainly production centric in terms of what you see, like what he talks about, but he's also a host. Like he's the host of basically his own show, and he's interviewing, these artists and these fans who come on, and so he really is like steering the experience. He's not just like taking a step back or like leaning back and just producing without any kind of interaction. Like he's really hosting the experience. On the other hand, I think there are a lot of, so I think, one like very standard part of like the production process, especially like early on, if you're just exploring ideas, is that you might play around with the same sample or the same like drum beat for an hour, which like if you say that, it sounds it sounds like really boring.
Also. Unless you're like, oh, I see he's adding some this and dude, that's super nerdy. No one wants to necessarily watch.
So on one hand, it sounds really boring. On the other hand, I think that alone being the reason that you don't go live, I think that's the wrong way of thinking about it. Because like, yes, at some point in your live stream, you might be playing with the same like instrumentation for like an hour, and people might tune out, and that's fine. But I think that's, if anything, that's the reason why maybe you should go live for a little bit longer if you're doing a production session, like go live for 3-4 hours. Because I think just people knowing that they have access to that process is super interesting, because as you're saying, like it was not available before. And so
it also reminds me of something that I think you had said in our interview about the difference between lean in experiences and lean out experiences. You described Spotify as a largely lean back experience, I should say, which means, you hit play and you're sort of engaged about 20%, but you're also washing your dishes, or you're, exercising, or you're hanging out with your friends, and you're leaning back. And then you've got stuff like a live stream where you're like, oh my gosh, and you're engaging. But what you just described is like a 4-hour production session. No one's watching that like this for 4 hours. They're kind of probably like doing some other stuff. And so I think what you're alluding to is like, instead of trying to pack everything into an amazing half hour, you're drawing it out into a very compelling but not totally lean in experience for like 4 hours, and people can sort of in their mind even pop in, pop out. Right?
Definitely. I think it's definitely middle ground there. I mean, so this goes back to the first question of like what are the different categories of live streaming. So very different example, but same kind of behavior. So I was tuning into a live stream that was happening on Mixcloud a couple weeks ago. There's a house focused label called Defected Records based in the UK, and they were hosting like a several hour long virtual festival, and like lots of DJs featured, and and there was like a video feed and a chat on the side, and I watched the video for like 2 seconds, and then I kept it on, but then treated it as radio. So like it was still kind of lean back for me, but I was listening to it in real time and enjoyed that experience of listening in real time. So it essentially was like radio with a video feed. I think like that's its own separate category, and unless there's like some community aspect or some access aspect, I have a hard time believing people will pay for that specifically. Like yes, people might tip, but like that's like definitely like a lean back radio experience. And it's like totally okay if people aren't probably most people did not like watch the video for like 8 hours for that entire day. But that's fine. So I think it's just about whether you want to put on a performance or bring people into the process that you're already doing. I think like that leads to different kinds of expectations that maybe people should have around like how people are engaging or not.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yuma, you read my mind, because number one, I was thinking, okay, I'm hogging this entire discussion. I don't mean to do that. I'm just a newbie to this. This is our 5th one, I think. So I'm like, there's people commenting. I'm supposed to say something. And so number one, Yuma, thank you for your question. And also it's one of those key questions that I had in my mind as well. So he says, what do you guys think will become the dominant platform for the music, for music live streaming in general? Obviously, this is a kind of crystal ball question.
Right.
Who knows? But he says, Twitch seems very strong, but I guess it's more gaming focused. What would be your answer? Like, maybe another way of thinking of this of the question is like, let's say it's 12 months from now, and one of these platforms is really dominant. Hypothetically, which one, if you were going to bet, because we don't know, which one do you think it might be, and why?
Interesting. Yeah. So, okay, I have a couple of thoughts, and maybe this isn't like a set answer, but I was like recently able to get some of the first like concrete data around live streaming and like what platforms are the most popular right now. And so I talked with someone who works at Bands in Town, and they've like pivoted totally to live streaming and like tracking live streams and helping fans like discover them and keep track of them. And they found that an artist can also use the Bands in Town app to post their live streams there. And interestingly,
Tori, can you post Bands in Town so people know where to find that? Really
yeah,
important.
I think it's super important.
Side service app, for sure.
And so the most popular live streaming apps for now, at least like the links that artists are posting as like the preferred viewing destination for fans, are actually Facebook and Instagram still. Like Twitch is,
makes sense.
Yeah, so Twitch is only around like 8 to 10% of streams, but Facebook and Instagram together, it's like 60% of streams. And
right.
And I think there's a reason why like the versus battles specifically, so like these like music producer / rapper battles that have been happening with like RZA and DJ Premier and Teddy Riley and Babyface. I think there's a reason that they turn to Instagram and not Twitch. I think there's like
Sure.
like an audience consideration there. Like I don't think they would have gotten like 500,000 concurrent viewers on Twitch. I think just like for now, the demographic of like where people who are interested in that kind of music are engaging right now is like there isn't that much Twitch actually. It's like on Instagram, and so I think
Instagram. Do you think that will
be
be true 12 months from now? Do you think 12 months from now Instagram will still dominate that space as much?
So I think they can if they seriously invest more in a live experience, because right now it's kind of like messy. Like the only live streams, you're just watching. In terms of like what there's no like landing page to discover ones like live streams that are happening right now. I just kind of either hear about them online somehow in a fragmented way, or I just like go off of which people in my network are going live, like the banner at the top of the page. That's like a very messy discovery experience. That for the actual like live stream, for the actual live stream itself, there's like nothing you can do aside from just comment and like read the stream of comments that are going through, which in some cases is entertainment in and of itself, right? Like, whoa, this huge celebrity just like popped in and commented, but if you're looking for artists looking for a more like custom, much more interactive social experience, Twitch is much better for now than Instagram. But I don't see a reason why like Instagram's team can't start building for that as well. It's just a matter of like whether they want
whether
to.
they do, and whether that's something they sort of invest in. Yuma had an interesting point here. People would rather watch it on their phone than their computer, which I think is true.
That's very true.
But also, correct me if I'm wrong, but all of these platforms are available on mobile too. So you can watch something on Twitch, you can watch something on YouNow on mobile. So technically, that shouldn't be too much of a limiting factor for someone doing it on. I mean, I think Twitch isn't quite as, it's certainly not as like common, and it doesn't have the it just doesn't have the sort of spread that obviously Instagram or Facebook have. But you can watch all of these things on mobile, right? Pretty easily.
You can, yes. I think maybe another consideration for Twitch specifically is that I want to bring this up about Discord as well. Is that both of those platforms were built for gamers?
Right.
I think you mentioned that as well. So like they have, which is why they're so interactive. Because I feel like what like gaming audiences are looking for, whether in games or in content about games, is like some kind of interactive component. And so, so I think artists who are either like steeped in those communities or just understand those mechanics better will definitely go more to Twitch. But yeah, I didn't think about the mobile versus desktop distinction. I don't see. I mean, Instagram, in part because it's now under Facebook. Of course, they just have like a much wider user base. Like so many more people are using Instagram, so they have that advantage for now. But yeah.
Do you guys have any other questions for Cherie? We got 7 minutes left, and now you can probably see, if you hadn't already, like why I wanted to have Cherie on. It's like talking to the Oracle. It's like, there's also, definitely like if you just Google Cherie's name, you'll find a lot of different things. I mean, there's articles that you're constantly writing on new things that are happening. Not all of them are on live streaming, by the way. They're on things in the music space that are happening. Mm-hmm. They're in tech. Mm-hmm. It's sort of a blend of sort of like social behavior, tech, trends, things that are happening. So please support Cherie, keep listening to her. She's one of the most important voices in trying to continue to figure this stuff out. And obviously it's like literally changing week to week to week to week. But if you guys have any final questions for her, absolutely let us know. Where do you see VR, AR going?
VR, AR? That's a good question. Definitely relevant now because I think, okay, actually now is an interesting time to examine what VR is going through because on one hand, the demand is there, I think, for experiences that are much more immersive, that that offer like a greater sense of escape. I think that's why you're seeing like film, TV, gaming consumption in general going up, like much more than music, like just pure audio streaming. So I think like sales of VR headsets have gone up, but obviously right now, anything that has some kind of physical supply chain attached to it has slowed down a lot. So I'm not even sure if those headsets are like getting into people's hands quickly. So the biggest barrier to me around VR is just consumers, everyday people having access to the proper technology, and also like having access and being able to use it in a way that doesn't give them headaches. That's like still easy to use. It doesn't feel clunky. I think there's still some way to go for that. In contrast, AR has already had a couple of really big moments. This is, a couple of years ago now, but the game Pokemon Go keeps coming up in conversations. Like, what's the kind of like, how do we either build on that, the cultural phenomenon that happened around that? Because that is an AR game in the sense of, I guess, having like some kind of like AR world mapped onto the real world, such that you still had to walk to physical places to find certain Pokemon. Yeah, my older sister is still playing as well. So I'm
not gonna tell anybody.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
it's just
it's people are still playing for a reason. It's like a really interesting and really fun game. So I know for a while, like people in music and entertainment have been trying to think about kind of like what goes beyond that. I don't know if like a Pokemon Go for music kind of experience will even is something people want, but like how does music tie into that? I think it's a really interesting question. And everyone with a phone has access to a camera, so anyone has access to AR.
Right. And I also think, as a sort of sidebar to that, I think video games is not really AR, VR, but it's a relevant sort of parallel space where people are sort of engaging, but they're not really there physically. Tori has a really cool question about your background and sort of how you got into writing. Question, Tori, do you want to pop on and ask it yourself? Do you want to come on and ask that with Cherie? I'll give you a second or two. This is like the thing that Emma told me not to do, is don't ask someone something because it might be like a couple of seconds before they can respond, and then it's this awkward. Okay, you ready to go?
Whoa.
Come on, pop out for 2 seconds. I'll be right back. Go for it.
He just brought me in so he could take a pee break, probably. Thank you so much for all the info that you dropped on us this whole stream. And I just wanted to know how you got started writing and kind of into this virtual space, because you're so knowledgeable on it. Like, what kind of started you down this path? Were you streaming or interested in streaming? Like, how did you get started with all that?
Yeah. Thank you as well, by the way. How did I get started? So I definitely didn't plan on writing as being my main thing. I would say music has been the through line throughout my whole life. So I grew up playing piano. I'm classically trained in piano, and was like pretty close to going to conservatory to study piano full time. So that would have been a very different life. But so the creative and performing side of music is definitely close to me. And then I was also super into math and stats like throughout my life, and also I studied that in college. And so I was thinking about the intersection of music and math, music and tech, music and data for several years now. And I randomly ran into this editor at Forbes one day who happened to be looking for more people to cover music and tech for them, and specifically music streaming. So this was in 2015. I think there was a lot more buzz around the topic because Apple Music had just launched that year. And so like the conversation around who the main players even were in streaming, aside from Spotify, Pandora, like that was shifting quite rapidly. So they wanted to have more writers cover that topic for them. And I just kind of like fell into it, knowing nothing about writing, nothing about like freelance journalism. It's just totally, I definitely learned everything on the job in the true sense. So yeah, but I've stuck with writing since then, just because I really enjoy getting to explore whatever I want in the industry. Really, that's like one of the major benefits of being a freelancer is after a certain point you do get to choose what you cover. You do get to like choose a specialization. For me, that was music and tech, and kind of sticking with that. But then also like getting to write about whether it's streaming or the live industry or like live streaming now or startups, like really having a high level view of everything that's going on. I'm really motivated by that perspective in particular. And writing has been one of the best ways for me to maintain that.
So it's kind of just like a way to blend your two kind of passions into
absolutely.
A career.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Pete, we were talking smack about you the whole time.
as I was opening. Do you know who Brento? Do you know who Brent? I'm sure you probably know who Brento Bean is on Twitch.
Me?
Cherie? Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. Brento Bean. It's Brento Bean, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm, that's right. Yeah.
So Brento Bean is like seems like he's one of the sort of bigger-ish kind of artists, songwriters, Twitch personalities. But not Twitch. Is it YouNow or Twitch, or is it both?
YouNow. It's
both.
You might be on Twitch.
No, you're right. It's on YouNow. Tori and I have been sort of swimming around in YouNow a lot the last couple of weeks, and I was watching a live stream of his maybe a week ago, and he's on there and he's like, "I'm gonna go pee. I'll be right back." And I'm like, "Wow, like you're gonna have to do this for a couple of years before you can just take a pee break." And I'm like, "I need to take a pee break." And I'm like, "Tori."
Did you hear me say that?
No.
When you walked away, I totally was he has to pee.
Like, why would I do that? I don't have the I'm gonna take a pee break thing figured out yet. I didn't have that ready. But
I think we're all speaking of like openness and transparency. We're all human. None of us have bladders of steel.
Not all of us.
No.
I don't know. Maybe some of us are.
You had a great.
That just proves this is actually live and real.
Yes, there you go.
That's all I'm trying to do here. Cherie, we'd love to have you on for a couple of days, but we'd love to have you on again, frankly. As time allows, I hope this was fun for you. And for me, like with Cherie, it's kind of like, okay, what's going to be intellectually stimulating for like Cherie? Because I imagine you just read all the time. How do you keep up with all of this stuff?
It's a lot. Definitely a lot of reading. I have like a Google alert system that I don't check like constantly, but like at least once a day, just to make sure I'm up to date with all the latest news. But yeah, definitely, definitely a lot more reading than writing. Yeah.
Thank you, Yuma, for thanking Cherie. You guys are
thank
awesome.
you.
This was a really fun little group. So it's interesting, like, every time we do this, it's a different amount of people and it's probably a slightly different group of people. And like, this was certainly not our largest group. I mean, I think Matt's was, I don't know, but I like this group because I felt like everybody was actually in a room together.
Right.
And it was like,
Totally.
it was Yuma and Annie and like, so I feel like, when Tori and I sort of powwow about these afterwards, I feel like what we're going for. Yeah, exactly, Yuma. Like this sounds really weird to say it like this, but like we're trying to go for something that's sort of natural to the platform, not force ourselves into something. And so you just have to let it sort of be what it is.
Totally.
Annie has a question here. Do you think it's helpful for musicians who already have a good audience to stream things besides music? I would say, as my answer, even though you didn't ask me, I think one of the things that Emma had mentioned was like, yeah, like do gaming. If that's what you're talking about, Annie, like, and you obviously know that this is happening a lot, but a good portion of what she does is not music performance. Then you have people like Matt, right, who did gaming, doesn't really think it's his thing, doesn't really do it now, may do it again, right? So Cherie, what do you think? Like for someone who's a has an artist, do they just stick to music or do they start doing Animal Crossing and some of these other things that might be non-musical?
Is this just to clarify, has T-Pain gone live playing Animal Crossing? Because I've
Cherie
played.
is super interested in that.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
I've played so much more Animal Crossing than I'd be willing to admit. So that's like totally something that
you have a 5-star island.
Yes.
You have a very supportive audience here for,
Oh my gosh. Yes. Yeah, I totally think that I definitely don't think artists should feel like they have to pigeonhole themselves into being just into like just doing music or just performing music. I think if anything, if you have multiple interests, now's really the time, or not now, but like live streaming specifically is a really great place to lean into all of that. Just because I think people are looking for to engage with people that are like them, that are actually human, that are more interesting. And so I've seen everything ranging from like gaming to cooking. Like a lot of people are into food, let alone musicians. And so I've seen a lot of them do like talk about food or do like these like cooking demonstrations. This is, I guess, in art, but a lot of like artists are dancers, and so they'll do some like dancing component as well. I definitely think if it definitely has to be like genuine to your own interests and what you want to do. Like you should not force yourself to do anything. But I think if you do have more interest beyond music, like of course, but by all means, lean into them.
Yeah. Annie had a question that I wasn't exactly sure what you mean. But she said, do you think that's helping, I think, Matt to get a bigger audience? If you just clarify that a little bit, I'll totally see if
I think she's still talking about T-Pain.
T-Pain.
Like, is playing Animal Crossing helping him gather more fans?
I think, so actually, if you look on Twitch, so music as a category on Twitch is growing super quickly. I think like viewership
faster than anything else, I think.
It might be one of the fastest growing categories, Okay. But for now, even then, Animal Crossing alone has twice the amount of average like simultaneous viewers and average number of channels as music. That's like all music combined.
I saw that in your newsletter.
Oh, yes.
Wild.
Yeah. So like Animal Crossing is like nowhere near like League of Legends or Fortnite. Like those that definitely like dominate on Twitch still. So I think it may have helped him in terms of warming up to those audiences on Twitch, like audiences who may not have otherwise tuned into a music stream, but are definitely watching Animal Crossing a lot more. So I think it helped in the context of Twitch and what they specialize in for now.
So you guys are rad. Thank you so much for the great questions. By the way, don't forget to fan, and I'm saying that specifically because that way you guys will know when we're live, because right now we're doing this sort of really old school, like, hey, we're going live, and we text people and email people, and you guys know, like, we don't know what we're doing yet. So if if you fan us, then it'll just say, do you want to watch the next one? It's going on right now. And it's much more elegant than us having to sort of hunt you guys down. So, Cherie, thank you so much again, man. We really appreciate what you're doing for the space and how much time and effort you're putting a lot of energy into your craft and what you do. And as a journalist and someone who's trying to help as well, I really appreciate all the things that you put into your work, and you're one of the best writers out there. So
thank you.
props.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Really appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
When I first started my interview with you a couple of weeks ago, I was like, you're the hardest person of everyone I've interviewed, because we could talk about 1,000 things.
Yeah.
And I feel like, I was like, oh man. So thank you guys. She drops a lot of great knowledge. Please support her. Cherie has a Patreon page that kind of has most of the things you do can be found on the Patreon page, or should they go to Water and Music first and kind of, is that where it's all living?
So I think my Patreon page, in terms of my writing and like the research that I share, that's definitely like the central hub. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Okay, good. So stay safe. Thank you again for all the love and knowledge that you're putting out there. Thank you. If there's anything we can help you with, obviously with the registries or any information, I mean, you're already connected with what we do, but you know, on my end, or if there's anything we can do to help, please let us know. Yeah, we'll do. Thank you as well. Okay. Yeah, and stay safe and healthy. Yeah. Sounds good, Cherie. All right, take care. See you soon. Bye. Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Cherie. Bye.
Awesome.
That was fun.
Yeah.
What just happened?
That's what we say every time. What just happened? That was fun.
What I say, we're gonna do it on here this time. Usually I call Tori up as soon as we finish, and I'm like, what just happened?
Thank you, Annie. Annie's saying we're super professional.
You know, you dropped that word the last time, and I was like, what does she mean by that? Thank you, Annie. I know it's a compliment. It was funny because, like, at one point last time with Matt, I don't know if Annie, if you remember this, but like we were in the middle of something, whatever, and I was stumbling through some question for Matt, and then someone goes, "Is this like an interview or something?" And I'm like, that must mean that like the way we're doing this is not like the. Do you remember that?
I think too, because
Annie,
a lot of people on You Now are so.
You were like, what is going on right now?
No. It was someone random from like a You Now viewer, yeah. Because I think most are just hangouts, and to come into like a formal interview, they're like, "What is this?
Whoa, what is this?" It's sort of like when you're at Starbucks and you're just trying to get like your coffee, and you realize someone's getting a job interview. Have you ever? Is that? Maybe that's a. I don't know if that happens in Germany but like, you know what I'm talking about? You'll be like just like wanting to chill and like, you know, whatever, and then someone's like, so tell me about, you're like, dude, it's like Starbucks.
You know, you just have people listening in being like, are they going to get this interview?
Never in Germany, right? Never in Germany. I got a funny job interview story based in Germany. I was not really physically in Germany, and this is not like a bad story where you're not supposed to say and stuff like that, but I was interviewing for a position at Ableton. It's like a software, you know, company for music, and they were doing the final interviews for, you know, like an artist relations person, which frankly I think would be a really super fun job, especially now. Like this is a number of years ago, and Ableton was a strong brand, and they were very, very good at what they did, but like it, you know, it was yet to be decided if Ableton was really going to come in and be like a major player. And I think there were a number of artists, Chainsmokers being one of them, that really sort of helped make Ableton like, no, this is like a core, like DAW along with Pro Tools and Logic and stuff. So anyway, so I'm like doing this interview, and everybody in the interview is German, and they're doing it through a video thing. So it's super awkward. You know what I mean? It's a job interview plus it's a video. Have you done any of those? Did you do any job interviews with video, Tori?
There was a couple internships when I was in college that took video interviews, and I was like, I don't want the internship that bad.
No. And
I didn't do them.
here's another sidebar. Like up until we started this live stream 5 weeks ago, I did zero video of any kind. I'm like,
I think that's the funniest fact
like,
about you.
Mom,
You're not a video
we're not
person.
FaceTiming. I love you, but like, we're gonna talk on the phone. And it's gonna be great, and then we're gonna hang up, and it's gonna be great. Like, it's fine, no problem. And then I'm like, screw it. Let's just turn the camera on. It's fine. So
and
anyway,
we're gonna stream it to the world now.
Yeah, and I don't really care. And so I'm like, in this interview, Yuma, you'll probably appreciate this story. Ableton is in. It's not Hamburg. It's. I'm sure we could Google it and find it in 5 seconds, but I'm trying to remember. It's another really, really hip. It's like a hip German city. I hate like video. This to me is not a video call. This is like something where people are just hanging out. But like, and imagine it's like a job interview, and so it's a job interview, which is intrinsically awkward, and then it's everybody else is from another country, from another culture, right?
That whole thing sounds awful.
And like, think about me. Like, you guys don't know me that well. Like, besides Tori, like, you don't know me personally for more than a few weeks, but like, imagine my personality, and then, you know, a bunch of people from Germany at Ableton that are just like, okay, so our next question is, how exactly did it end? That was a very like direct, like, we want, is it 4 or 4.5? And I was like, blah, 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 blah. And I'm sure they were like, this guy is like, seems like a really nice guy. He's very friendly. I did make it to the last round. I think I was like in the top 3. But it was so awkward because I'm like, wow, video and just this. It would have been true of any culture that's like you're not that familiar with. It's not like I ever went to Germany. I have a lot of German friends, and most of my German friends are like super warm, friendly, like, you know what I mean? Like they're sort of the opposite of the German stereotype. You know what I'm talking about. And like, people think Germans are like very kind of like serious and like straightforward, and at least that's like the American like sensibility. And they're all like super, super fun, great people. So I don't know. It was super weird to do like a video like that but I still love Ableton. And yeah, and I can be very like, they are very direct, and they just want the answer. They're like, is it this or that? Not they, like everybody, but certainly on that interview, I didn't realize till afterwards. I'm like, wow, I really blew that. Anyway, so is there anything else that you guys would like to see more of? We are thinking about, who are we thinking about for like the next couple of weeks? So I'd like to have the Dapper Rapper on, largely because Emma mentioned that would be someone good for us, and I think she was going to make an introduction.
That's twice someone has mentioned Kenny Beats. I don't know if he's out of our league, but to hear from someone who streams their process would be super interesting.
Make it happen.
Okay, I'll work on that.
See,
but yeah, let us know what kind of stuff
I think also
you guys want to hear.
So what I was getting at there was new models.
Give us more info.
Yeah, more info. They're from Berlin.
Oh,
that's where Ableton's from. Not from, but based. Berlin. And they make good podcasts. Cool. New models. Is it like, do they do stuff on music, or is it just tech, or is it about art, music, tech, politics? Dope. Let's reach out.
Write that down.
If you guys have any other ideas for stuff, you guys, Annie, you can reach us. Is there a way? So let me ask. Like, Yuma, you have my email. We've been, sending stuff back and forth. But like, is there a way for us, like, if Annie tomorrow is like, yo, I think it'd be good for them to have so and so, does she just write that on our wall? Does she send us a postcard?
A pigeon, carrier pigeon. Yeah, you can
Yeah.
type it on our wall. Just go to the profile and there's like a little post, kind of like Facebook feed.
That seems so cold, though. I see a lot of people just like, thank you so much for the support and blah, 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 blah. It's like, I feel
Yeah.
like there should be an easier way. I don't know. I mean, Annie, I'm sure you're not like going, oh, I wish I could send him an email right now. Probably not. But my email is peter@peterpetro.com. It's not that difficult. So if you guys have anything that you would like, if you guys want to see it, there's probably other people that would like to see it. So if it's specifically artists or like people that you think like the podcast, thank you, Yuma, that are doing things that would be cool for us to talk about or to bring on, or it could also just be things you're trying to figure out. Like if it's I could probably bring on most of the people that I mentioned and interviewed in that music registry piece. So I'd like to bring on Evan Lowenstein, who runs Stage It. I'm sure he'd be down to do it. I'd like to bring on maybe someone from You Now. Maybe Jake can come on from You Now.
Yeah.
I'd like to bring on Eli from Hovercast, which is more of a premium model. Like if you're doing something that's kind of a big live stream rollout kind of a thing. The guys from Key, Cadence, sorry, not Cadence, Cadenza. Like I think people that are running these businesses, Moment House, the people that are actually doing this every day and seeing like, well, these kinds of artists are doing this, or we're having trouble figuring this out, or we've seen an uptick in that, bands in town. Like I think it would be cool to bring in CEOs or executives from those places, but you guys might be going, no, don't bring those people on. So let me know.
The bands in town's a good idea too.
Yeah,
they've been super moving with the whole virtual streaming space.
Yeah, bands in town is important, and this is something that Cherie talked about in her most recent piece. Was like podcasts, live streaming has a problem with discovery. In other words, you can't just be like, oh, I want to go find some new metal producers, blah, 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 blah. Sucks. We can probably get him in next week. So she was talking about how like basically live streaming has been ignoring this problem for a long time because it wasn't really big enough that it mattered enough to people, that you can't find things easily by category if you want to find some new music. And also if you like, I don't know, X band, then it doesn't have a lot of algorithms to guide you to Y band. So bands in town, Songkick, I think even Eventbrite, there's a couple other companies that are in the space. They're sort of teasing this sort of, okay, give us all your music data. Tell us what you listen to on Spotify. Tell us what you listen to on Apple Music. And we'll suggest and curate a kind of a guided list for you to do some live streaming stuff that's going to be right in your wheelhouse. And so that's kind of become this new, just in the last couple weeks, this new big play. And bands in town's probably the biggest player of those. Do you think that's true, Tori?
Yeah, that's all good points. And I like how you and Cherie or compared it to podcasts, because I love
totally
listening to podcasts, but
yeah,
how do you find them? And it's always been word of mouth for me. Someone being like, hey, check out this stream, or hey, check out this podcast. There's never been a source to find it.
Yuma, that's a good question, and it's actually one of the things that Cherie talks about from the other side, from the artist side. People don't know when you're going to do something. There's two answers to that. Number one, and again, these are all Cherie's idea. None of this is my original stuff. I'll let you know when it's like, oh, I can
cite your sources.
Yeah, like Cherie. Number one, you've got to be, sort of frequent. I think Karen Allen, who's kind of a Twitch expert, says like twice a week, 3 times a week, is a good once a week minimum. So from the artist side, from the creator side, you have to be frequent enough that people are used to going, and they're used to sort of having it, maybe even semi-subconsciously, like, oh, Wednesdays and Fridays, I gotta go see live online. Right?
Look forward to it every Wednesday and Friday.
I think one thing is just like, you've got to have something that's frequent enough that it has a footprint for your audience. And then the second thing, what was the second thing that Cherie said? That like when you buy a ticket to a live show, you're probably not going to forget to go. Maybe it's because of the price of the ticket, the logistics involved, the planning. You're going to go with some friends. You put it on your calendar. You don't need like necessarily a reminder. Oh, it's Thursday night. We're going to see, Snow Patrol or whatever. With live streaming, because of the nature of how it works. Thank you, Annie. Thanks so much. We'll see you next time. Because of the way it works, number one, you might not be spending quite as much money. And number two, it might not be something that you're used to sort of scheduling around in the same way, because you're going to be doing it like while you're living. So intrinsic to the live streaming model is there needs to be a reminder system, so that when you buy something, it's like, oh, the concert's coming in 2 days. Oh, it's 1 day away. That needs to be there. And that's, again, one of Cherie's sort of insights is you need to be able to find stuff easier. As an artist, you need to be able to do it frequently enough that people know and can expect and know Wednesday, Friday. And also there needs to be reminders built into the system more than with live shows, that people probably don't need that as much.
Yeah. All such great points.
So Yuma, I expect you're going to have a live streaming studio by next week, and we can do a piece on it. A little bit of pressure. Just a little bit. Thank you so much for coming in. And he's like, oh, great. No, seriously, we'll see. I know. Hey, it's probably a lot easier than you think. I mean, one of the questions I wanted to ask Cherie that we didn't get around to was like, the 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 question. And I feel like if I were to distill what I've heard her say and what I heard Emma say, it's like 1.0, if you're going to start with live streaming, is number one, start on a platform that's not intimidating. Like YouNow, just tap it, start, go. Don't go to Twitch yet if you've never done live streaming. That would be my unsolicited advice. And number two is, just start, just try it and see, because we clearly don't know what we're doing, but we learn every day. We learn like, oh, that seems to work well. Oh, maybe we'll do hashtag music. Oh, that seems to work better than, hashtag whatever else. And I think, Yuma, for you, part of the reason why people might come to you and say, sorry, my battery's almost dead. I always feel like proud when I like run my devices down. Like I out-talk
That's
my
the
iPhone
device telling you, okay, wrap it up.
No, it's just like, dude, I've got 10% left, man. Like, shut up. I think people are going to come to you, Yuma. If people are interested in coming, to do something in the live space world, they're going to come partially because you have great analog equipment. You have, good rooms and good vocal chain and nice looking environment. People, but they're also going to come because you have some expertise and you have some fluency in it. So I think the more you can, get a Twitch account and just toy around with it, the more you can get a YouNow account and toy around with it. Do an Instagram live once a week. And it doesn't matter if it's good or successful. I just think you being able to sit down with a client a month from now and they're like, we're thinking about doing live streaming. And you could say, do you want to do YouNow? If you're going to do micropayments, do you want to do YouNow or Twitch? Just that alone is going to let them know that maybe the other studios in town don't even know that's a question worth asking. And that may help you in, moving into this space because, it's going to be the end of the year before this industry looks anything remotely like what it looked like before the pandemic.
True. Yeah. Yuma has a lot of thoughts.
He's like, blah, 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 blah. And let's see. So what different things I want to say, but yeah, I feel you. Do you want to come on, dude? Do you want to come on for a second?
Become a streamer now.
He's like, I don't know about that. Okay, sure.
Oh, he said sure. Drag him on stage.
Yuma. I hear my voice. That means he's probably almost live.
Guys?
Oh,
What's up?
hello.
Nice.
Yeah, thanks for bringing me on.
Of course.
He's a streamer.
I'm very close to the camera.
Yeah,
I'm actually on my phone right now.
That's okay.
Just turn it
That's
on.
what I do. Usually, if I. So, is there a way for him to mute it so that I forget how we
There's a
do
little
that?
echo.
Oh wait, I'll just get my headphones just a sec.
Yeah, that helps. This reminds me of the first couple times that you and I were doing this, and I would have one stream on my iPad, and then I'd have the same
better?
channel on my phone. That's super.
Yeah,
better.
we can hear you.
All right, great.
Yeah, so
Okay.
this happened. I think one of our first like test live streams, I had our stream running on both, the device in front of me, and then I turned it on my phone, and then it's like, whoa, like nose hairs,
you
like
get a
it's just
huge
like
feedback.
boom, you're like right there. So
Yeah.
so yeah, man. What time
What are
is
the
it?
thoughts? What are your
what-
questions?
first off, what time is it? Because it looks like you're like rubbing your eyes, like what's going on? What time is it there?
It's 8:30 right now.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
In the evening, so it's not that late.
Yeah.
I just got off like working
Oh.
at home. And
Yeah.
I thought I'd just check in. And
What are
Thanks for
you
coming to the
doing?
stream. You
What
had
are you-
some great questions.
Thank you for hopping on, man.
so actually
What
in
kind of
the-
work are you doing from home? Are you working for the studio?
Yeah, so the thing is, I don't run the studio. I'm actually sort of an apprentice right now,
Cool.
and so what I'm doing from home is the studio actually has I think 5 different labels attached to it.
No way, I didn't know that.
They're actually very small, but now we're actually getting our back catalog onto streaming services, and
Smart.
So yeah, that's what I'm doing from home.
Are you who do you have? I'm just curious now from a music industry nerdy standpoint. Do you have someone managing? If you're doing that, you're obviously doing it for revenue, I'm assuming. Is there someone that's tracking all the PRO and stuff for that, or are you doing that all yourself?
What do you mean PRO?
Sorry, in other words, you're putting it on streaming services to get streaming revenue.
Right.
And are you is it just sound exchange and stuff like that, or are you trying to get more impressions out into the sort of?
Well, like we have musicians that recorded in our studio who are on the label, but also other artists. The studio has been around for 70 years now, so like judging from that, there's like really huge back catalog of different
It's jazz.
musicians.
It's a lot of jazz.
Jazz. We have a lot of brass music. I don't know.
Brass.
How you pronounce it.
So Miles
Brass.
Davis, I think, has recorded
Miles Davis,
there.
He actually
Oh,
recorded
wow.
at our studio. I think the recording was never actually released, sadly, and was lost.
Oh, really?
One of those bootlegs.
One of those bootlegs that's still floating around. What is the website
Who
for your
knows?
studio? Just so we can type it in.
I can put it in the chat.
Dope.
Just
Just so people can check it out.
Yeah.
So, but it's mostly like, I would say classical and jazz, the stuff that
Classical
you guys
jazz,
record,
yeah.
right?
That's our
Yeah.
biggest genres. And you might know that iTunes, for example, has very strict specifications on how you have to put it into, like you have to put the metadata into the system.
Yep.
And so you have to do a lot of corrections. And
that's how you get paid,
double
though.
check it and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, I'll
but-
just throw it out there because it could be useful, and maybe I don't know. There's a whole subsection of people that I've started talking to that kind of specialize in what you just talked about. So like if someone's putting out music in some way, how that metadata gets entered is a big deal for you getting paid over the long term and the short term. And it's very easy for stuff to fall through the cracks or be mislabeled or for there to be multiple versions of something. And so there's this whole piece of like being vigilant enough that the material that's being consumed is monetizing the way it should be. So sometimes people are just doing it in-house, so to speak. They might have someone like you or a team of people that are just like, oh, no, this needs to be hashtag this and that or whatever.
Right.
And there's also services that do that, you know, like there's one that I was speaking to recently. Oh gosh, what is their name? Let's see if I can remember it. I'll put it in here in a second. But it's like they actually have relationships with all of those, like BMI or ASCAP or CSAC. I don't know what is the equivalent in Germany.
The Germany is the GEMA.
GEMA.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about are the companies that are charged with making sure that if your music is broadcast, that you get paid according to the statutes that you should be getting paid. And they're PROs, performance rights organizations, that are charged with doing that. But there's things that are happening digitally that aren't as easy to track, and those PROs aren't necessarily as comprehensive about some of those newer pieces. So there's companies that specialize in that, and they're becoming more and more relevant because like streaming revenues are insane. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars that the labels get every year. And so even if your artist only makes a very small portion of that, it's a lot of money. So anyway,
Right.
so it's mostly classical and jazz.
It's mostly classical and jazz, yeah. And it's amazing to see how when you put up like a recording that was made, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, and then suddenly you have it on the streaming services, and it becomes like some obscure version of a Christmas song it goes
like
into charts in like
thing.
Japan or something like that.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's one of my tasks at the studio, but I also do almost everything, like helping out recording assistants sometimes.
Cool.
Or just doing everything.
So engineering? Do you have a background in engineering?
Side. Actually, no.
Okay.
I just help like with setting up microphones sometimes.
Cool.
But
what do you want to? Are there reasons why you want to work in that studio? What is it? Things that you're looking to learn?
So actually, I started out there. I actually wanted to do an internship with the label.
Yeah.
But at that time, I also felt like dropping out of uni, so I was studying musicology at the time.
Okay.
And I didn't feel like it was going to help me get a real job. So
I'm at 5%, guys. So if I disappear, it's not like that guy's a jerk. My phone's a jerk. Yeah, by the way, Christian, thank you for joining us. And if you have questions, let us know. So you basically were like, you were studying musicology because you're like, I love music. I want to do something in music. Right. Musicology to start. But now you're at least working with a studio where you're kind of seeing the day-to-day things. So it's a lot closer to probably what you want to do. Right. And you get to see like, oh, I like that more than this, and maybe I'll look into that. So it's good.
Right, definitely. It kind of gave me an overview of what kind of branches and fields there are in the music industry. And I felt like I've already made very valuable connections from there.
That's good.
You also worked in a studio, right?
I have. Was that directed at me or at Tori?
No, at you, but I didn't know Tori was too.
Yeah, Tori. So I'll let you answer first. Tori, have you done anything with studios at all?
Not studios particularly. I've done work within a management company and a record label, and currently an events company, but never been in a studio besides, pushing artists to the studio.
Literally, like, go.
Like, go,
Get in there,
record some
finish that.
music.
Yeah. I started out kind of similar to you in a way. I played instruments, growing up, and my degree in college for 6 months was music performance. I was working on a dual degree in piano and drums. And then I realized within 6 months, like, this is not really I can already see it's like that scene. Did you ever seen The Matrix?
Yeah.
You've seen The
He
Matrix?
loves
Have you ever
throwing
seen that
in the
movie?
Matrix analogy.
I love bringing in The Matrix. If you haven't seen The Matrix movie, then you won't understand. But there's a moment where, he's like about to get out of a car, the main character, and she's like, you've been down that road. You can see, where it's going to lead. So I was like, I'm not going to study music in university and expect that's going to. Yeah, you've seen it. There's that scene where, like, she picks him up for the first time, and he gets into the car, and it's a rainy scene by the bridge, and anyway. So, like, you decide, like, okay, that's not really going to teach me what I want to know. And I think ever since then, I've sort of just gotten myself into a position where, like, let me just get close to it and then learn enough where I can be like, I'm more interested in that than this. And then you move there, and then that kind of thing. So I've done a lot of consulting the last probably 6, 7, 8 years. And one of the projects I did was with Westlake Studios, which is here in LA. It's a pop studio. It's where Michael Jackson did the vast majority of his records. Chainsmokers did most of their newer stuff there. Rihanna did a lot of her work there. It's like a mainstream pop studio, a lot of hip hop. Timbaland works there a lot. And so I helped put together a production school. Like, okay, how do you produce records efficiently, lucratively, that compete? And so I actually worked inside of Westlake for probably 2.5 years. And that was where I really started to understand the kind of day-to-day realities of the studio business and the studio world, and how artists interact with that space, and what works and what doesn't work. And so I mean, I feel like I relate pretty well to most of the studio. I talk to a lot of studios because of the publication. So I think a lot of people are going through the same thing you guys are. The difference is, meaning studios. A lot of studios are going, you guys are, I want to say you reached out to me and said, hey, thanks so much for doing that, resource, and this is really great or useful, whatever. And then we started a dialogue, and now you're on a live stream learning about live streams. Like, that's the difference to me, is everybody else is going, oh, what are we going to do? And you're on a live stream meeting people and exploring it. And I think that's the difference, is a year from now, you'll know 1,000 times more than everybody else, just because you'll keep doing these little things over and over and over and over and over, and they compound. So that's my soapbox moment. So is there anything else that you're trying to learn more about? Are there parts of the industry that you want to learn more about?
So what I was going to say actually about the things we talked earlier about was that so people at the studio have been saying all these changes that are happening right now.
Yeah.
It's nothing that's just there right now, but it's actually things that have been changing, that are changing a lot faster now.
That's right.
So our studio, we focus a lot on analog recording, as I said. We still produce CDs for artists, even though in smaller amounts than, let's say, in the 2000s. And we still make vinyls. We have this sort of we regularly do concerts and record them on an analog tape, which is very fun. And it actually resembles this kind of live streaming things a lot, because the way that analog recording works, it's also very intimate. So we
Right.
get people into the studio who listen to the concert, but while there's a live audience in the room, it's already getting recorded on a
Tape.
on a two-track tape,
Yeah.
and from that we're pressing the vinyls like directly. So
Wow.
every single note that's played during the show will also be on the vinyl, and I think that that's like a very intimate setting, even though you're listening to it maybe from home a couple of weeks after the show,
Right.
but you can still kind of feel the atmosphere that was there when the recording took place. And
sure.
so a lot of fans that buy our vinyls, they're actually a lot into this hi-fi scene. So like high fidelity music. Some of them spend thousands on their setups at home, on their speaker systems, and so I think a great challenge now is that you only have such a limited bandwidth, and I mean Tidal is a streaming service that focuses especially on high fidelity, lossless quality. But I was wondering if maybe something like that will also be there for live streaming.
So the reason that I'm looking at my phone, Tori hates. Mostly, I'm doing it just to get a reaction from Tori when I look at my phone. But also, there's someone that I interviewed. Whose name I honestly don't remember, but I know he emailed me recently. So I'm looking up that while I'm listening to you because he would be good for you guys to know about. Do you know who Qobuz is?
Yeah. Actually,
okay.
our label manager worked there for a couple of years.
So check it out. So Qobuz, there's two pieces. I'm at 3%. It should be all right. So number one, Tori, type Q. Oh, actually, I can do it. The reason I was asking you to do stuff like I had like no fingers was that the stream on my phone wasn't coming up. It kept not coming up.
Oh,
so
good.
Qobuz,
I have my computer here so I can type to say the word.
So Qobuz, you guys should check out Qobuz. Why? Because from what I understand, Qobuz has probably the highest actual fidelity in technical terms of any of the streaming services. And we don't have to go into the technicalities of why that's true, but because of frequency response, because of bandwidth, because of various things, how they're ingesting the material, it's a very high-end experience. And I think they're at a reduced price model now. I think it's maybe something like 10, 12 bucks a month, and you're getting like noticeably better experience. That's number one. Number two is because probably of the audience that's paying for that and listening to that particular subsection, it's not Spotify, it's not Tidal, it's a high fidelity option. It tends to lean towards jazz and classical, right? So number one, you guys should have a relationship with them, and I'll be happy to initiate that by email and say, hey, you guys should connect because A, B. The other one, which was what I was looking at, is newer, and also it's not active in the U.S. yet, but it is active in the in Europe, and it's called Jazzed. Are you hip to this? So
I've
Jonathan
never heard about Jazzed.
Jonathan Arendt emailed me like a week ago, and he was like, "Yo, whatever happened with our interview?" And I haven't even hit him back yet. So this will be a way for me to be like, "Hey, man, sorry I didn't get back to you, but I have someone really great that I want to connect you with, so he won't hate me."
With one stone.
So it's jazzed, just like it sounds, .com.
Like
and
Jazzed.com.
.com.
Okay.
Now, again, it's super new. Like they just started, but they're remarkable because, thank you. They number one, they know jazz. Like jazz is a thing. You have to live it and know it and know the difference between early Miles Davis and late Miles Davis and Coltrane, and when they were playing together. And this record was a different drummer, and like it's never ending. And if you're going to do jazz, you better know what the hell you're talking about. And don't play smooth jazz when you're supposed to play straight and stuff like that. So they not only understand the music part of it, but they do their own editorial, and they really like know jazz. They're not even trying to do jazz and classical. They just do jazz. So if you guys are looking for a high fidelity option for jazz specifically, those guys have put a tremendous amount of intel and heart into making the jazz experience for jazz lovers really, really good. And either one of those are sort of like digital equivalents of like that really hi-fi, intimate vinyl, whatever, in the digital environment, and the 2%. Those are two people that you should check out. So let's do this. Look at their websites a little bit and get a feel for them. And then I'll make introductions for you to both groups. Because I think it just happens to be you're in Europe as well. It might be a really good, they would love it if you could find those Miles Davis. Don't you have somebody else from that era besides Miles?
Let me think. I'm not
I think
that
you were the one
much
that told
into
me.
jazz myself, but
It was like Miles
I've seen some people come into the studio, and there's a lot of pictures. So we had Miles Davis come around. Then we had Cherie record.
That's plenty.
2 albums.
Yeah. So that's what we should do.
We did Keith Jarrett. Yeah.
Okay, that was it. That was it. That was who else?
Right.
Yeah.
And,
so Keith Jarrett, Chick Corea, those are huge names. I mean, not quite Miles, but those are huge names. So that would be for both of those. If I could introduce you and say like, hey, these are you guys have access to the masters of those recordings?
That's a different story, because a lot of those things were actually produced for other labels.
Got it.
And our jazz label was only introduced, I think, in the early 2000s.
Got it. Do you know if you have any larger names that you actually have the masters for?
I have to check on that, but probably not that many.
Okay. That's what would help, because then I can, if I introduce you guys and I can say, hey, they just have a recent, by the way, I'm at 1%, so I'm.
You're cutting out a little bit.
Am I?
Yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, before I do, thank all of you for, because if I turn this to where I can charge it, it's going to look weird, because it's going to put me sideways because I'm on an iPad. Oh, wait, I could, hold on.
And pop it on your phone.
Yeah, I'm gonna pop it on my phone.
I have to go jump on some work emails, so I'm gonna shimmy out of here. Nice to meet you, Mo. Thanks for all your questions.
Nice to meet you too.
Pete, another great
Has been great
stream.
What just happened?
It was awesome. So much content to digest from Cherie.
I know. It was great.
All right.
Cool.
Have a good weekend, both of you.
See you soon, Tori. Bye. Let me just, I think what I have to do is I have to log out and then log back in. Because right now I'm on my Peter account. Let's see. I'm looking at my hair for the first time and I'm like, wow, dude, like, how is anyone getting their hair cut? You probably are, you feel me, right?
I actually started growing it out before the quarantine, so it doesn't really affect me that much. I was thinking about getting my size cut, but
that's hilarious.
I'll see about that.
Yeah. I was trying to get the girl that cuts my hair. Her name is Ella. She's awesome. But this is like 12 weeks of not cutting my hair, so it
doesn't look
crazy.
Too bad.
What are you gonna do? So let me see. I'll sign out. Bear with me here. I just don't want to lose you. And then I'm gonna sign back in. Okay, this should work.
So now I should see on your phone, right?
Yeah. worked.
Ah, okay.
Cool. So now this is just
The phone version.
Yeah.
Now,
Let me just put
Okay,
these
great.
on.
okay, cool. Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually
Yuma.
still becoming used to you now.
Can you hear me,
because
brother?
I've never used
I
it.
cannot hear you.
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Let me see.